All right, hey, welcome to another edition of JTJU, where we all try to be just a little better at the game of Clash of Clans. I've got another how the that's right, yep. And in this case, we're taking a look at a Town Hall 10 3-star on a max base, pretty much. And actually, it's going to be a double feature. There'll be two attacks of the same type using the exact same mix on slightly different bases. So, bonus. But the type of attack specifically is a Zap Quake followed by a Queen Dive or Queen Walk, then a Tri-Lava Loon action off that. So let's go ahead and get into the attacks and see how it flows out and actually worked. Okay, so here's the attack. The base itself, the first one of two that we're going to look at is a Racetrack. A little weird in terms of this being open. That's not very common. So it doesn't really matter though, because the end of I mean, it matters somewhat, but not really. I take it back. It doesn't matter because the queen actually ends up shooting from this position. The king ends up moving through here and dying, and then we're air. Sorry about that. So I would say, meh, the base looks wonky, but the royals being weak is somewhat of a note to take, and then the walls being weak allows the queen to move in later on without much delay. Even though the time is not a factor, you can see we got 30 seconds left. So no big notes, I would say, on the base itself. What you're going to see is the first is going to be the Zap Quake to take out the eye tower, and then the Quake here coming through. The queen is weakened, but on the second attack, it was not key to do that, so I don't think getting the queen weakened is required. It's just kind of a nice to have. Hang on a minute, we'll pause here for a second. So, and now the queen's actually going to move into a shooting position, and one of the things you'll notice is that she stays in this location, does not get in any enablement in terms of like wall breakers to help her into the mid, and I think that's on purpose because in the second attack again the queen is held back and kind of attacks from far away, kind of in a hold position, deals with the CC, and that's because they want this to be down. They need the queen for late stage cleanup, so they don't want the queen in here getting killed early, right, where all the DPS engages with her. They want the Loon team to handle that and let the queen handle the CC itself. So I guess we'll keep going here, but she blows in. Notice she's going to end up getting 1 AD down, but that's it, and then also gets the queen. Boom. Here comes the king. He's going to suicide. Notice he's not getting anything but a CC trigger out of this. I mean, he does get a whiz tower and an archer tower, but nothing of big value. So that kind of tells you how important the king is. The most important mission he has is probably the CC trigger. Any other buildings he can get off of it, like an AD, that's also a bonus, but you can make this attack work without getting the second AD down prior to the Lava Loonian aspect, as you'll see coming up here shortly, at least on this base. So here we go. So now the queen's going to park up here and spend a little vacation time dealing with the hound, but meanwhile the Loon attack is actually firing up, and you'll notice that the attack is happening on this concept of the table that I talk about. So we've created the line. Basically if you look at the ADs remaining, the primary ones, don't think about the backside, there's this attack vector coming through here. So in effect we've created the table, run across that and hammer into what we want, enabling a quick pathing to the core defensive assets that remain on the field, which is right here. So we do that with a concentric attack of, in this case, 5-spot Loon deploy off of 2 hounds coming in off the 1 AD, and then they'll bring another hound off this side with I think it's a 3-spot maybe, or 2-spot. And what's interesting about that is that the mix in both attacks in terms of numbers is exactly the same. 2 hounds here, 1 here, 13 Loons here, 7 here. The difference is the number of deploy points. In this case we had 5, and in the other attack you'll see 3. So deploy points is dependent on the base, but I think the mix, wanting to have a bigger bulk of forces on this side, which is the main drive team, and this side is really more of a shaping team to create the turn and also to then go up and deal with the backside if it still exists. That's more of its role, not so much to get into mid. Okay, so let's keep going. There goes the Loons. Everything's happy-go-lucky. So notice one thing here, so we've got this rage that's dropped. Now in the second attack they'll actually use the rage for the healer, and they'll end at the attack the haste will actually still be available. If you don't, I think what I would take away from that is that if you don't use the haste, I mean, if you don't use the rage with the healers, you can use them here. But if you don't have the rage, if you did use it on the healers, swap in the haste instead. And then at that point, it's the same concept though, of like you're hasting or raging the Loon team, the core team, followed by, as they engage the eye tower and maybe the expo behind it, you're going to freeze that action. Right? And he's got a level 1 freeze. So this is kind of impressive in terms of it's a mid to max level base for a lot of the defensive aspects. So a level 1 freeze is sufficient. That's pretty good, right? Let's keep going. Oops, sorry. Here we go. Flying around the corner. Everything's going fine. And notice the queen is still hanging out of range, just doing kind of a duck shoot over here, taking out hounds, not really worried about anything, having a good time. The other hound comes off the other IAD and comes up to the top side, so it allows 1 or 2 loons that really don't do much to come through and then hit the backside. And at that point, you know, the attack is pretty much done. But now notice this is where the queen, who never even used her ability, is now pushing through the base itself. So not only do we have a haste left, we didn't even have to use the queen ability in the attack, and we're dealing with the level 1 freeze spell. So pretty impressive. Here's the second base. Again, the strategy is going to be kind of a, whoops, where are we? There we go. It's going to be a Zap Quake off of the beginning, and then the dive is actually going to come this way. Right, and interestingly enough, the queen is going to hang up in this area, and the king is actually going to dive, suicide the queen, take out the AD and the archer tower as well. And so we're going to end up with, can you see the table? It's right there. Again, draw the, right? So we're going to be tabling probably in this direction. Shukdonk. Right? If I'm right. We'll see. I've kind of forgotten. So I'm guessing. We will find out. Here, let's go. So there's a Zap Quake. Notice we do not get the queen in this time in this splash, so it's not a critical aspect to weaken the queen. Here comes the queen walk. Wall breaker in. Does seem to be something going there. And she's moving through into the base. Same mix exactly in terms of units and spells. So she's moving along. And notice the CC and the Archer Queen are both on the back side of this attack vector. Here we are using the rage in response to the king coming out. Him beating on the queen would probably take her out, so that was required. So at this point, we're going to have to use the haste coupled with the freeze to get through mid once we've got the table set up. So here's the king. We get wall breakered into position. The king's now becoming aware of the queen, who is weak, level 17. That's kind of weak for Town Hall 10. But notice now, doesn't even really care. Again, we're suiciding the king. He's basically dragging the hound around for funsies as the rest of the attack flows in, and sure enough, it is that flow that I talked about. Again, if you draw the lines, and so we're coming across this way again off the table that's been created by the attacking force to get the short line. The deploys were 3-2. If you didn't catch it, it was happening pretty quick. Here's 3 to put spot, and 2 spot will happen up here. Sorry. And so we just keep rolling. And here comes the haste spell I mentioned since we lost the rage. So we're going to haste and then freeze into that Tesla course. There's a lot more DPS in this base in the mid. But once they're there, it's kind of all over. But the crying. So it's a pretty, and notice again, the queen just now finishes with the pups. So very delayed. A lot of people try to resolve the CC before beginning the attack. In both times, this attack, Confederate, from above and beyond, this is someone we went out and visited about 2 weeks ago. Confederate actually delayed the CC, didn't care. Basically figured out where he could handle the CC where it wasn't the queen under pressure. And then because of that, was able to have her available at the end to help with the cleanup and never really get into time pressure with it. So 2 great examples, I think, of Zap Quake at Town Hall 10. I think it's worth giving it a shot. And so hopefully it helps you guys in your wars, and we'll just go from there. Let me know how it works out for you in the comments. See ya.
Don't touch that, Larry.
Touch it, Larry. You know you want to.
Larry, don't touch
Larry,
that.
do it. Do it, Larry.
Larry!
Yes! Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life, Larry.
What'd I
Good
just
job,
say, Larry?
Larry. Good job.